Mahjong, also spelled majiang, mahjong, and numerous other variants, is a game that originated in China. It is commonly played by 4 players. The game and its regional variants are widely played throughout Eastern and Southeastern Asia and have a small following in Western countries. Similar to the Western card game rummy, Mahjong is a game of skill, strategy, and calculation and involves a degree of chance. The game is played with a set of 144 tiles based on Chinese characters and symbols, although some regional variations use a different number of tiles. In most variations, each player begins by receiving 13 tiles. In turn, players draw and discard tiles until they complete a legal hand using the 14th drawn tile to form 4 groups and a pair. There are fairly standard rules about how a piece is drawn, how a piece is stolen from another player and thus melded, the use of simples and honors, the kinds of melds, and the order of dealing and play. However, there are many regional variations in the rules. In addition, the scoring system and the minimum hand necessary to win varies significantly based on the local rules being used. Name. In Chinese, the game was originally called, meaning sparrow, which is still the name most commonly used in some southern Chinese varieties such as Cantonese and Minnan, as well as in Japanese. However, most Mandarin-speaking Chinese now call the game Mahjong. In Northern Wu Chinese, it is pronounced as mo ti shan, but in actuality, is the diminutive form of, written as mo ti sian, due to an Erwa event. It is through the Wu Chinese pronunciation of that the diminutive form of in Northern Wu became known as in both Mandarin and Wu. History. China Mahjong is based on draw and discard card games that were popular in 18th and 19th century China and some are still popular today. They were played with a stripped deck of money-suited cards. Each deck is divided into 3 suits of cash or coins, strings of cash, and myriads of strings. There are 9 ranks in each suit. In addition, there are 3 wild cards: red flower, white flower, and old thousand. Depending on the game, there are multiple copies of each card. Games scholar David Pallet has written that the Western card games Conquin and Rummy share a common origin with Mahjong. All these games involve players drawing and discarding tiles or cards to make melds. The most likely ancestor to Mahjong was Pengu, which was played with 120 or 150 cards. During the late 19th century, Pengu was used interchangeably with Mak in both card and tile form. It is not known when the conversion from cards to tiles took place precisely, but most likely occurred in the middle of the 19th century. The earliest surviving tile sets date to around 1870 and were acquired in Fuzhou, Shanghai, and Ningbo. These sets differ from modern ones in several ways. In the Glover sets, there were no flower and AFA tiles. In their place were king tiles for heaven, earth, man, and harmony. There were also king tiles for each of the 4 winds. In the contemporaneous Himli set, there were no jongg tiles too. Instead there were the cash flower, string flower, and myriad flower plus an additional king tile, the king of everything. The function of the king tiles are uncertain. They may have acted as wild cards. They may have been removed as the tiles share the same titles as the leaders of the Taiping Rebellion. For example, Hong Juquan was the self-styled Heavenly King of Great Peace, and his top subordinates were called East King, South King, West King, and North King. This game was banned by the government of People's Republic of China when it took power in 1949. The new communist government forbade any gambling activities, which were regarded as symbols of capitalist corruption. After the Cultural Revolution, the game was revived, without gambling elements, and the prohibition was revoked in 1985. Today, it is a favorite pastime in China and other Chinese-speaking communities. Mahjong in the West. In 1895, British sinologist William Henry Wilkinson wrote a paper which mentioned a set of cards known in central China by the name of Mahjong, literally, hemp sparrow, which he maintained was the origin of the term Mahjong. He did not state the specific Chinese variety of his informant. By 1910, there were written accounts in many languages, including French and Japanese. The game was imported to the United States in the 1920s. The first Mahjong sets sold in the U.S. were sold by Abercrombie & Fitch starting in 1920. It became a success in Washington, D.C., and the co-owner of the company, Ezra Fitch, sent emissaries to Chinese villages to buy every Mahjong set they could find. Abercrombie & Fitch sold a total of 12,000 Mahjong sets. Also in 1920, Joseph Park Babcock published his book Rules of Mahjong, also known as the Red Book. This was the earliest version of Mahjong known in America. Babcock had learned Mahjong while living in China. His rules simplified the game to make it easier for Americans to take up, and his version was common through the Mahjong fad of the 1920s. Later, when the 1920s fad died out, many of Babcock's simplifications were abandoned. The game has taken on a number of trademarked names, such as Peng Chao and the Game 1000 Intelligences. Mahjong nights in America often involved dressing and decorating rooms in Chinese style. Several hit songs were recorded during the Mahjong fad, most notably, Since Maya is Playing Mahjong, by Eddie Cantor. Many variants of Mahjong developed during this period. By the 1930s, many revisions of the rules developed that were substantially different from Babcock's classical version. The most common form, which eventually became American Mahjong, was most popular among Jewish women. Standardization came with the formation of the National Mahjong League in 1937, along with the first American Mahjong rulebook, Maj. The American version of the ancient Chinese game, written by NMJL's first president and co-founder, Viola L. Cecil. Many consider the modern American version a remake of a Jewish game, as many American Mahjong players are of Jewish descent. The NMJL was founded by Jewish players and is considered a Jewish organization. In 1986, the National Mahjong League conducted their first Mahjong Cruise tournament, in conjunction with Mahjong Madness. In 2010, this large-scale seagoing event hosted its 25th silver anniversary cruise, with players from all over the States and Canada participating. In recent years, a second organization has formed, the American Mahjong Association. The AMJA currently hosts tournaments all across North America, with their signature event being at the Trump Taj Mahal Casino Resort in Atlantic City, New Jersey. British author Alan D. Millington revived the Chinese classical game of the 1920s with his book The Complete Book of Mahjong. This handbook includes a formal rules set for the game. Current development. There are many governing bodies which often host exhibition games and tournaments for modern and traditional Mahjong gaming. Mahjong, as of 2010, is the most popular table game in Japan. As of 2008, there were approximately 7.6 million Mahjong players in Japan and an estimated 8,900 Mahjong parlors did 300 billion yen in sales. Many devotees there believe the game is losing popularity and have taken efforts to revive it. There are several manga and anime devoted to dramatic and comic situations involving Mahjong. Since the 1980s, hundreds of different Mahjong arcade machines in Japanese video arcades have been created, including strip versions. Newer units can connect with other arcade machines across the internet. Mahjong culture is still deeply ingrained in the Chinese community. Sam Hui wrote cantopop songs using Mahjong as their themes, and Hong Kong movies have often included scenes of Mahjong games. Many gambling movies have been filmed in Hong Kong, and a recent subgenre is the Mahjong movie. Prolonged playing of Mahjong may trigger epileptic seizures according to a 2007 study. To date, there are 23 reported cases of Mahjong-induced seizures in the English medical literature. Studies by doctors have also shown in Hong Kong that the game is beneficial for individuals suffering from dementia or cognitive memory difficulties, leading to the development of Mahjong therapy.